Wren Dalton loved probate law for the same reason some people love archaeology. The dead leave better records than the living. Wills don't lie. Trusts don't equivocate. The architecture of a person's intentions, who they loved, who they resented, what they wanted to survive them, was preserved in legal language more honest than anything they'd said while breathing. She'd been practicing for 3 years. Estate law, probate, trusts, the legal framework of old money in a city that had been accumulating old money since 1733. Her clients were the families who had been here long enough to have complicated wills, which in Savannah meant every family with a garden and a surname. She was good at it. She was especially good at the uncomfortable part, telling heirs that their beloved grandmother had left everything to the cat. The Ashford estate came to her on a Tuesday. Routine intake. One of Savannah's oldest families, records going back to the original colonial charter, a property portfolio that included 3 mansions, a warehouse district, and what appeared to be an entire city block on Oglethorpe Square. The client? Jasper Ashford, living trustee.
Who's been managing it?
Family tradition.
Dates don't match.
Check the Ashford seal and the signature.
No, this is wrong. Completely wrong. Board records 17.2 to 18. These are the same signatures. They're all the same.
She took the case. She reviewed the files. She noticed the anomalies, property records with the same signature across 3 centuries, document language that predated modern legal convention, and a chain of custody that contained no deaths. Not no deaths for the recent period, no deaths at all. The Ashford estate had been managed by the same entity for 283 years without a single probate event. She flagged it, filed it, moved on. She was a lawyer, not a detective. The anomalies would wait. The anomalies did not wait. The attack came from the upper gallery. A vampire, not Ashford, not Coven, feral, had infiltrated the garden party through the servants' entrance. Degenerated, mindless. The specific horror of a vampire that has lost its human anchor and devolved into pure hunger. It moved faster than anything she'd ever seen, a blur of motion from the gallery rail to the garden floor, and it hit 2 guests before anyone could react. It hit Wren third. She didn't see it. She felt it. A force against her side, the ground leaving, the specific sensation of being lifted by something much stronger than the human body can produce. Teeth at her throat, the pressure before the puncture, and then Jasper, moving at a speed that made the feral look slow. He removed the creature from her throat with one hand and held it off the ground, and the garden went silent except for the string quartet, which had stopped, and the sound of her blood hitting magnolia leaves. She was dying. The wound was arterial. The feral had opened the carotid before Jasper intervened. She had maybe 4 minutes of consciousness and 10 minutes of life, and the blood was warm on her collarbone, and the garden lights were dimming.
The ward records. This is it. 147 years. Marked. It's real.
The blood bond. Vampire blood to human wound. The oldest ritual in the coven's repertoire. A binding that saves the human's life and anchors the vampire's sanity, and creates a tether between them that is, in every functional sense, a chain. An elegant, life-saving, utterly non-consensual chain. She woke in the Ashford House library, 4 a.m. The wound was closed, not scarred, closed, as if the carotid artery had never been opened. She felt different. Not sick, not weak, but connected, as if a wire had been run from her chest to something outside her body, something cool and ancient and constant. She could feel him, his presence, 2 rooms away behind a closed door. She could feel his hunger, a low, constant frequency, the specific vibration of a need that has been managed for 315 years. And beneath the hunger, concern for her.
If either party wishes to dissolve the bond in a 90-day
She researched, not supernaturally, legally. She requested the full Ashford estate archives, 3 centuries of records, every ward, every bonded human documented, their names, their lifespans, their compensation, their exits. The records were immaculate because Jasper Ashford was immaculate, and the thing about meticulous monsters is they keep meticulous books. She found 147 bonded humans across 283 years, every one longer lived, healthier, wealthier than their unbound contemporaries. The enhanced healing from vampire blood extended human lifespan by an average of 12 years. The coven's financial resources supported each ward's family for generations. The bond was, objectively, beneficial. It was also involuntary. In 147 cases across 3 centuries, not a single ward had been given the choice. The bond was administered in emergencies, attacks, accidents, illnesses, when the alternative was death. Every ward was bonded mid-crisis, saved first, informed later. The consent was retroactive. The gratitude was expected. Wren Dalton, who had spent 3 years reading the intentions of the dead and who trusted written records more than spoken promises, sat in the Ashford House Library, surrounded by 283 years of beautiful, meticulous, non-consensual bondage, and began drafting a contract. If you want to see whether a 315-year-old vampire signs a contract he's never needed, subscribe to Underworld Romance. The terms are binding. She felt his curiosity through the bond. That was the other thing. The chain went both ways. He felt her anger, her determination, her grudging fascination with the legal architecture of supernatural servitude, and she felt his admiration. Reluctant, ancient, the specific, grudging respect of a being that has been managing human affairs for 3 centuries meeting, at last, a human who manages back.
The terms are met.
The contract was 7 pages. The blood bond restructured. Terms of engagement, boundaries, opt-out mechanisms, arbitration protocols. She'd applied partnership law, employment law, and tenant-landlord regulations to a supernatural blood tether. It was, legally speaking, either a masterpiece or an absurdity, possibly both.
You are asking me to rewrite history.
I am asking us to choose.
You are tied to me now.
I know. I know.
The bond was a chain. She turned it into a contract. Subscribe, Maeve. The next clause is non-negotiable.
You knew the terms.
The room was silent.
I know what I want.
4 coven elders, a 315-year-old vampire, a 26-year-old lawyer, and 7 pages that proposed something the supernatural world had never considered: that a bond imposed by biology could be governed by consent. Jasper read the contract, all 7 pages. She felt him reading through the bond, not the words, but the intention behind them, the careful architecture of a woman who had been chained without consent, and who had responded not by breaking the chain, but by redesigning it. The chain was still there, the bond was still there, but the chain now had clauses.
I understand the terms.
Good. Then our arrangement begins.
He set the contract down. He looked at her, not through the bond, not with the enhanced perception of a 315-year-old predator, but the way a person looks at someone who has surprised them, genuinely, fundamentally.
We both understand what this means.
Yes, but I'm asking, do you accept it?
He signed. He picked up the pen, an old pen, the kind that requires ink, because some vampires are exactly as theatrical as you'd expect, and he signed all 7 pages, each signature deliberate, each clause acknowledged. A 315-year-old supernatural being submitting to the legal framework of a 26-year-old human who had been bonded to him for 3 weeks and had spent those weeks not learning to accept the chain, but learning to redesign it. Through the bond, she felt the moment he signed, a shift. Not in the biological connection. That remained constant, the tether between their nervous systems as real as it had been since the garden party. The shift was in the quality of the connection. The chain was still there, but the chain was no longer a leash. A leash implies one person holding and another being held. A contract implies 2 people standing on the same level, agreeing to the same terms, choosing, despite every historical precedent, despite every power imbalance, despite 3 centuries of "this is how it's always been done," to do it differently. She felt it through the bond, what he felt. Not hunger. He'd managed the hunger for 315 years and would manage it for 315 more. Something else. Something the blood bond had never produced in any of its 147 previous iterations, because none of those iterations had included a 7-page contract signed by a vampire at a dining room table in Savannah, Georgia. Hope. The specific, fragile, carefully maintained hope of someone who has been the axis of a wheel for 3 centuries and has just been offered something better. A partner. The blood bond was supposed to be a chain. It felt like coming home. Home has terms and conditions.